Hey folks, Pat here from DNS. This Madison area fishing report is current as of May 26th. Well, we're here at Memorial Day weekend. Going to be a busy weekend here at the shop, busy weekend out on the water, busy weekend in a lot of places. A lot of folks getting out of town, a lot of folks staying in town, just a lot of folks being out. So a lot to talk about as far as the report goes. So I guess we'll just kind of get started here on some stuff. A couple quick announcements. Reminder that the DNR is hosting their free fishing weekend, June 3rd and 4th. That'll be next weekend, but it's coming up. So if you got somebody who's too stubborn to get a license and maybe is using that as an excuse not to get out fishing, now they don't have an excuse. So you can get out next weekend and fish for free. Of course, that coincides with the Yahara Fishing Club's Kids Fishing Day. They'll be hosting that right here in the backyard of the shop, basically, in Warner Park, down at the Rainbow Shelter there at the Warner Park Lagoon. 9 a.m. to noon, June 3rd. And if you got a kid who's under 14 or under, bring them on down. They get a free rod, get set up with bait. We donate bait to that event, and it's just a great event. They got instructors down there from the chapter that it will help you, with any casting or any instruction you might need. It's always cool to see that many kids out getting introduced to fishing. And they almost always catch, fish down there. There's always some dandies that come out of the lagoon. So it's just a cool event. They even have hot dogs and chips. So if you got a kid you want to introduce to fishing and don't want to pay anything for anything, just go down there. It's going to be great. You don't even need a license or rod. They have rods that the kids can walk away with. So it's a great event. And I'd like to thank the Yahara Fishing Club for doing that. Another unfortunate topic we're going to be talking about here quick is water quality in the lakes. Madison Public Health Madison, Dane County closed a bunch of beaches. I've mentioned this before. This is actually a great tool if you're wondering you want to get out somewhere on the chain, but you're wondering about maybe algae blooms. When they close these beaches, it's a good sign that the algae is, or that part of that lake is not in great shape. So if you look here, every single beach is closed right now. So there's some blue-green algae out there, and folks are still getting fish, but it's just kind of gross, and you want to be careful, of course, about swimming or with pets in that water and stuff like that. So anyway, Public Health Madison Dane County website, beach water quality is a great resource to let you know what water quality is around the lakes. And also, I had a guy in here this week from Public Health Madison Dane County dropping off some new advisories that they have out on fish, mostly concerning PFAS in the water. So that's been a concern. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about. They have a great website here with resources on mercury, PCBs, PFAS, a little video here. But they have this fish advisory PDF that is actually up here at the shop, and a couple printouts, and it just says, if you're pregnant or able to get pregnant or under 15, they recommend 1 meal a week of bluegill and yellow, panfish. People who aren't able to get pregnant, it says it's unrestricted, which is a bit of a surprise to me. So I guess it's fine to eat panfish. I don't really know, but of course, your bigger fish, they say 1 meal a week is what you want to do, and then it says 1 meal a month, or do not eat if you're pregnant for muskie. So all you folks out there eating muskies, you're just going to have to cut back to 1 meal a month on those muskies. And same thing for carp too. If you're eating more than 1 carp a month, you're going to have to cut that back. But no, seriously, it's a good resource, and thanks for the Public Health Madison Dane County for putting this stuff out. I guess, shop news, we have, let's see, leeches are bigger now. So got a nice batch of leeches in this week, and I got a bait order coming today, and my bait guy says the leeches are quote-unquote beautiful, I guess as beautiful as leeches can be. But anyway, these are some nice size ones you see here, and got some nicer ones on the way, so swing in. Everything that swims loves a leech. I also updated the digital brag board here, took a bunch of the photos that Gene and Sandy left on the old brag board, scanned all those in, and he had a bunch of photos in the back there that I also scanned in, so added some vintage photos to the brag board, and so they're circulating through here. And I just want to remind folks that if you want to send photos to info@dsbait.com, you can send those to me, and I'll put them up on the brag board. So that's been a lot of fun. Had a lot of folks submitting photos there. Okay, to the report. Um, we have had a great weather week. It's a little windy here and there. Had a bit of a cool down, but really some fantastic weather to be out enjoying the water. Memorial Day weekend here looks fantastic. A little bit of a warm up forecasted for next week, but still some great temps for getting out on the water. The buoy on Mendota, we're at 59 degrees this morning, so not much of a warm up from last week. I heard 63 degrees earlier this week on Wabisa, and I imagine water temps should remain in that 60 to 64 degree range through the weekend. Of course, you'll find warmer water in shallow bays and protected areas. Generally, around the chain, we've had some blue-green algae blooms, like I mentioned, popping up, and lots of weeds floating around that have made fishing challenging in spots. But for the most part, no matter what species you're after, you're going to still want to be looking shallow this time of year. So mostly 15 feet of water or less. Crappies are done spawning across the chain, depending on where you are. Or mostly done spawning depending on where you are. Bass are up on beds or done spawning, and bluegills are staging just outside those spawning areas or just moving onto beds themselves. So, fish on Lake Mendota are a little bit behind, but if you get down to Kegonsa, those fish are up on beds. Yeah, it just depends on where you're at, and water temp is really what affects that. If you are going to target gills, I would just want to encourage, if you're targeting gills on their beds, I would just encourage folks to practice catch and release for those fish. We need the gills that are on the beds to be protecting those eggs and keeping the fantastic fishery that we have going here. As far as reports go, I've been getting reports of panfish in most shallow areas around town. Bass action remains good with many fish on beds or just getting their post-spawn feed bag on. Catfish here and there on the north side, or I'm sorry, catfish here on the north side continues to be great, and walleye are still being found in good numbers in slightly deeper water near breaks, but I do still hear about fish being caught in very shallow water here and there. And both the rivers, Wisconsin River and Rock Rivers, are flowing in good shape. A little more detail here. Up on the north side here, up on Cherokee, it sounds like the weeds have pretty much taken over here. I drove by there the other day, and it was looking pretty weedy. I do hear a few reports of some good topwater action out there, but those weeds aren't going to get any thinner until September now. So it's pretty thick, but you can still get good access if you launch at the launch here and paddle around. If you got a canoe or a kayak or something, it's great access up there where there aren't weeds, and still a ton of fish up there, bass and pike. The 113 bridges, nice mixed bag of fish in there. I've been hearing about a few crappies sticking around, white bass, bonus walleye, smallmouth, largemouth bass, panfish, but the star of the show is still catfish up there. Still getting some monsters coming out of there as those fish are getting ready to spawn. Also here in the North Bay, same deal. If you got a boat, you can get out there. They're catching a lot of nice cats. Otherwise, around Mendota, the panfish action in all your small inlets remains good, and still hearing good bass reports in shallow water, and the walleye are still hitting good. Most of those fish are moving out to, like I said, a little deeper water. I hear a lot of, still 15 feet of water range, but some deeper, some shallower, and some much deeper. I had a couple reports of some fish in as shallow as 5 or less feet of water. So, their walleyes are out there. There's a lot of them, and they're hungry. So get out there and try them. I wouldn't fish any deeper than 20 feet of water for sure, though. Otherwise, they down on Tenney, and all the areas that they've been getting fish anywhere shallow. University Shoreline's been good. Maple Bluff, Governor's Island, Fox Bluff, over here on the Middleton side. Some folks trolling over there have done well. Second Point, everywhere. They're getting walleyes everywhere. Down to Tenney Park, the fishing's been great, both above and below the locks. Some nice bluegills coming out of the river here. Still some white bass hanging around, and some nice walleyes in there still too. So some good fishing to be had for the shore folks there on Monona. Haven't heard that much in the way of panfish outside of the channels over here at Weechawak Bay, and then there's Monona Bay action. The crappies have moved out of here, but the gills are in there setting up on beds or on beds, depending on who you ask. But there's good gills in there. Some good panfish action up here to the Monona Terrace wall. Bluegills have been good most times during the day. Crappies, it's been a little. I haven't heard much from the crappie folks other than early morning or in late evening bite. Winger's got a ton of small gills in, and I have heard the muskie actions picked up over there a little bit. A couple reports of some fish coming out of there. Not any giants, but still beautiful fish nonetheless. Heard about some fish on beds in Turtle Bay. I haven't heard anything specifically out of Squaw Bay or Weechawak Bay, as it's called now. Um, but yeah, I haven't heard anything from the muskie folks out of Monona either. I haven't heard about any monsters caught, but I'm sure they're out there. Of course, I don't hear everything that's going on. Down here to the Lots Landing, sure there's still panfish in these inlets down here up to Upper Mud. They're getting some fish out there, of course, at the dredge hole and the areas surrounding that. Got some bass on beds. I mean, they're off their beds and they got their post spawn feed bag on, and you got lots of bluegills up there on beds. Same thing off Lake Farm and down to the South Bay of Wabisa. I've been hearing about some fish on beds. Otherwise, some good bass action in a lot of the shallow areas around the lake. Have heard about a little bit of walleye action down here near Bible Camp. The other thing I mentioned last week, and they're still dredging out Babcock launch over here. So, and I don't know if they're going to have all the equipment out of there for the Memorial Day weekend, but it could make for some launching headaches there. That launch gets real busy over Memorial Day weekend here. So I guess the jury's still out on that. Down on Kegonsa, I've been hearing about some fish. Crappies are off their beds, but bluegills are on beds up here near Fish Camp and other shallow areas around Kegonsa. Been hearing about a little bit of walleye action near the state park over there. I think trolling was what those folks were doing. I guess that pretty much covers the chain. We have Lake Koshkonong down here. I've been hearing about some good walleye action, per usual up here where the river dumps in. Folks getting fish trolling and on leeches. Also, I've been hearing about some fish down here in the Newville area. All right, so yeah, some good action down near Newville. And then up the river here near Black Hawk Island, folks been getting some walleyes there. Heard about some white bass near Fort Atkinson, and then of course up at the Jefferson Dam, still some white bass hanging around up there. Haven't heard about if the cats have moved in there yet, but I imagine that's just around the corner. And let's see, Beaver Dam Lake has had the catfish action out there remains great. Some good eater catfish. Heard about a lot of short walleyes and crappies out there. That action continues to be pretty good near shore. Let's see. Otherwise, over to the river. Prairie du Sac Dam's been fishing pretty well. Hearing about some white bass still hanging around up there, and of course the usual mixed bag of, sheep's head and all kinds of, you never really know what you'll catch on the river. That's what makes it such a fun place to fish. But I've been hearing about some catfish moving in there too. So otherwise, up here on Lake Wisconsin, heard about a lot of short walleyes, some good numbers, but not a lot of keepers up there. Panfish at Wayland's Grade and the fingers over here. Action has been pretty good. Otherwise, haven't heard a ton out of the Wisconsin River. Oh, sheep's head up there too. A lot of sheep's head, kind of, giving a good tug on the line, but certainly not what a lot of folks are after. Up to the Dells, I'm still hearing about some crappies below the dam up here. Otherwise, haven't heard much out of the Dells. Castle Rock Lake, been hearing about some decent walleye action up there. Crappie near Wood, but a lot of the walleyes are coming out of shallow water up here trolling, from what I hear. Of course, the dam at Castle Rock is always a great place. Some catfish in there, and again, a mixed bag of fish. Petenwell has been fishing well, from what I hear. Sounds like a good walleye and white bass action, all shallow in less than 15 feet of water. Also heard about some good crappie bite up here near Wood as well. It sounds like the water over on the Mississippi, while it's still high, is fishable. Folks are still getting some good bluegills in flooded timber and walleyes on current seams. Over to Milwaukee, I did hear, still some folks picking up a few cohos off the breakwalls at the harbors, but that action's bound to be done here pretty quick. And then, it's pretty much a charter game now for salmon and that out in the big water out there. As far as the tribs go, I haven't heard anything specifically about folks targeting smallmouth yet, but the Milwaukee River has turned into really a pretty great smallmouth fishery over there. So those fish should be in there and pretty hungry as they're done spawning. Haven't heard a ton up to Green Bay. I imagine there's still some good white bass run action happening over to Oshkosh, and I don't know. I guess that's pretty much it for the warm water side of things. As far as trout go, I'm not going to do the Happy Fly Day thing anymore. Just adds to the already long report, but I will generally discuss trout that and just say that the dry conditions lately have streams running clear and conditions are great for spring trout fishing. Enjoy it while it lasts. The grass is coming up. I was out this weekend, had nettles up to past my knees. There's poison parsnip you got to deal with coming up here soon, and of course bugs and stuff. But still great opportunities to get out there and enjoy some good trout action. Blue-winged olives, caddis, crane flies have been showing up in larger numbers. Also seen hatches of some cream-colored mayflies and some sulfurs coming off already. So that's on the dry fly side of things. Of course, woolly buggers and nymphs are effective anytime fish aren't rising. But if a hatch comes off, you'll definitely want to be ready with some dry flies. On the spinning gear side of things, of course, panther martins, tube jigs, rapalas are fantastic this time of year. And on the live bait side of things, it's super hard to ignore the effectiveness of just dragging a bobber under a worm through some riffles. That's got to be probably one of the most, if not the most effective way to catch trout. So get out there and enjoy the trout fishing before it gets too hot and weedy. Otherwise, I think that's it for the report. Appreciate you tuning in. Post your catches or comments below. And feel free to call the shop at 241-4225 if you'd like us to expand on any of the stuff we talked about here. Otherwise, I wish everybody a happy and safe Memorial Day weekend. Thanks for tuning in, and good luck out there. Take care.